everybody doing, man? I want to welcome y'all to another episode of Wake Your Ass Up with Ev. I'm your host, of course, Evans Moreau, man. And I have a very special guest with me to the left. This man right here means a lot to me, of course. All these guests I've been bringing up lately, of course, we have some type of relation. And this is no different. This man right here has done a lot for me. And he said he wanted to come up on the podcast. So, of course, we're going to bring him up here, man. Without further ado, I want to introduce y'all to Carlyle Sr., Carlyle Holder Sr., the founder of CMCG, the founder of a lot of stuff. Man, I'm gonna let him say a little bit more about himself.
Yeah, it's certainly a pleasure to be working with, I consider one of my sons, and we're proud of the work he's doing. By way of background for me, I'm originally from Trinidad. I came here at the age of 17, joined the Marines, got out of the Marines at 21, started my career with the Federal Bureau of Prisons at 22, became the youngest warden at 36.
36? You became a warden at 36? 38? Okay.
And retired at 50.
Okay.
And started my company five days later.
Okay.
And been in existence for about 13 years.
13 years, yes sir. So you said you was from Trinidad. When did you move from Trinidad?
I moved from Trinidad. It's a long time, it'll tell my age, but I moved in 1975.
1975? You moved, and then you moved to where?
And then I joined the Marines.
When you moved from Trinidad, though, you moved to
Brooklyn,
New York. Right, that's what I thought.
Right,
I thought so, okay.
Yeah. Almost Caribbean people.
Right, that's what it seemed like. They moved to New York.
They moved to New York.
Right.
With the globalization now, people, may move to other states. But primarily back in the day, most people would move to Brooklyn and then venture off from there.
Mm-hmm. So what made you want to join the Army when you moved?
Actually, that was never my intentions. I signed up to go to school. My dad was teaching at Columbia and getting his PhD.
Okay.
And I met this young man from Honduras. We used to actually rent from them, and he was going into the Marines, and I got intrigued by
you was interested
and stuff. And I decided that this is what I wanted to do. Obviously, my dad was opposed to it because he wanted to see me go through the education route. And for me, I felt like that was the best decision that I've ever made. As I reflect back now, that was
going to the Marines.
Yeah, going because I felt like it gave me a sense of stability. As a black man in America, you never know how you can be caught up in the stuff. And as you know, that was right coming up with all the drugs and stuff that, I'm not saying I would have been caught up in it, but
mm-hmm.
I think the fact that it kind of gave me a sense of discipline, it kind of put me on a pathway that was the beginning of a lot of the things that I was able to accomplish in life. So I was one of the youngest sergeants. I made sergeant when I was 19, 2 years and 3
months.
In the Marines.
Right, that doesn't happen every day. So of course that's a big accomplishment. I heard you say that being a black man in society and coming up at that time, what was it like coming up around that time? What was it like for you? Was people happy you went to the Marines, or were people looking at you like kind of something that you shouldn't have done?
No, I don't think so. As someone from the Caribbean, we come and trying to make a better life for ourselves or our family members. So I don't think at the time anybody, really had any issue with my decision. It was a decision I initially regretted when I went to boot camp because I hadn't been the subject of a lot of racism.
Right.
I mean, as you know, in a country that I grew up in was predominantly brown, between either black or East Indian folks. So coming to America and then going to boot camp and white folks, the white drill instructors is talking about your mama and stuff. I had a tough time adjusting, and I really had to check myself. I really had to check.
It was like a reality check. Like, did you?
Yeah, I was gonna go AWOL. I thought about, this was
just leaving.
Yeah, just leaving.
Right.
But then, in boot camp in Paris Island, there's only one way in and one way out.
What you mean by that?
You only get one bridge. If you try to escape, you're gonna get eaten up by alligators or once I made up my mind that I wasn't gonna let them break me, I came in first in about everything. I graduated number 2 in boot camp, so I got promoted after boot camp with 1 strike.
Okay. Got promoted at the boot camp early.
Yeah.
So you always had that willpower in you to just keep fighting and keep going. You got that from an early age.
Yeah, I would say that too, you know, and I try to tell young folks, you gotta be able to weather obstacles. And sometimes, you gotta put in the grind. I recognize that as a black man in not only, I say in the world now, you can't just be average.
Right.
A
lot of people okay with being average.
Yeah, because we done, it's not fair. But nobody said it's gonna be fair. So I instill in me that I know that I have to work harder in order to get the things that I want. And so I always put in the grind.
Yes,
I always have to stay later, study harder, or do whatever I take, and it proved to have served me well.
Good. I see you got the CMCG shirt on. I like it, actually. I like that too. That's that white and gold look good together. But talk a little bit more about that. I know you had that company for a long time, but I never really knew what the company insisted of and what was within the company. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I recognized at some point during my career in the government that I didn't want to work for nobody else.
Right, as most of us don't.
Right. So I decided when I retired I was going to start my company. I didn't know where it was going to take me, but I feel that, based on the successes I had in the agency, I felt that was a good starting point.
Right.
So I went out and, it took me about, I got my first federal contract in July of 2009.
When you say federal contract, that means doing what?
So I sent a team of individuals, 5, 6 people that go audit state and local jails that house U.S. federal pretrial inmates all across the country.
Okay, so you're working with pretrial inmates.
Right, I audit. I make sure, what I do for the government is make sure that they meet what they call the national detention standards. So these folks are contracted with the government, and I go in to make sure that they follow all the contracts in terms of health service, food service, health and safety, and those kinds of things. So my team goes in and they spend a week at the prison, and they evaluate those areas, and then we give them a rating.
Okay, so you guys so it sounds like to me you guys have a lot to do with prison reform and things of that such.
Well, it's not necessarily as a company, because we work for the government. So the government tell us
what to do.
We work on their behalf.
Yeah.
So we their representative. Like for instance, what we do here in the state of Florida, we monitor all the juvenile facilities in the state.
Okay.
So I have a team that goes around and make sure they meet all the requirements the state wants them to hold. We have about contracts, what we call Prison Rape Prevention Act. That's a law to minimize people being raped in prison. So we do audits for about 15 states doing that stuff. So what I consider as a company, we also have a security division. So we do armed and unarmed security.
Yes, sir.
We have a logistic division, which we have, and the reason I came up with the logistics section is to provide returning citizens an opportunity to get a job. Because I feel as a truck driver, it accomplishes 2 things. You get a housing and you get a job.
Right, because you live in the truck.
And
you're always on the road.
Right, so you're always on the road.
Always
so
gonna be working.
I decided to create a division to do that, which is kind of different, because people say, why do you have a correctional company and why do you have a trucking piece?
Right.
So that was all most of my ideas that I came up with come from my experiences working in corrections.
Okay. So everything, I worked in corrections. I didn't really work in corrections. You remember when I worked in food staff in the kitchen that one summer. But I mean, when I was working there, I seen a lot of the conditions that the ladies were going through. Because I worked at the female prison. I seen a lot of conditions that they were going through, and just they were telling me their everyday stories and just things that they were going through. And it seemed like a lot of the stuff was unfair. Of course, like you said, a lot of things aren't fair, and we all know that. But a lot of things just seem like could be better. So what do you think about a lot in social media recently. I'm not sure if you've been seeing it, but they've just been saying abolish prisons. Reform needs to be more more as like an initiative and things of that such. And what do you think? Have you been seeing that stuff? Or?
I think I can better address that from my position when I was a warden and what I wanted to see. See, because I feel like that I had the power to transform people and let them fulfill their God-given potential. Now they used to, a lot of the workers didn't subscribe to how I wanted them to deal with the residents.
Right. So
they felt like, but I didn't give them a choice. Right. So
right.
Because if it's coming from the head, everybody has to follow. Now it took me a while to get people to come along, but then they start to see the benefits.
Right.
We never had a homicide. We didn't have riots. Everybody respect each other in the prison. So what I used to tell the staff, this is their home. So we have to find common ground, right? Because we can't abuse them, disrespect them, and then want them to. So it was. I always used to say we want mutual respect. They know their boundaries. We know our boundaries, and we gotta coexist.
Yeah, that's one thing. I definitely seen a lot of the staff in there was just nasty to the inmates a lot of the time, and it really felt like for no reason a lot of the time, just because maybe they were having a bad day or something of that. They just felt like they could just take it out on the inmates just because they got rule over them. They got
Well, that never happened, in any prison that I operated. That never happened because I also did a lot of management by walking around. So I didn't.
Right. So you did your own management.
So I walked and I find out. I didn't sit behind the desk and then have somebody report to me what was going on. So I would go in with the gangster disciples, the Aryan Brotherhood. I'd go in the backyard and just walk right into their group and just have conversations with them by myself.
Yeah.
I wasn't the one that walked around with an entourage. I felt that if I have to do that, then I'm scared. And if I'm scared, then the prison is going to be on lockdown until I remove whatever that is in that track, right?
Right, I got you.
So I used to walk all by. I never was assaulted. Once in 27 and a half years, I never got assaulted by a prisoner.
Right. So you said you was 27 and a half years you was a warden in the prison?
No, I was a warden for 12 years, but
okay.
I was a supervisor for 24 of the 27 and a half years. As you know, you start your way at the bottom and
you work your way up.
Work your way up to the top, right? So,
like you said, you mentioned you used to talk to the gangster disciples, the Aryan Brotherhoods, and all type of races and cultures in there. Did you see like because the media, I'm not saying the media, but it's more of an alarming rate of African Americans that are locked up in prisons than any other race, I would say. And so do you find that to be true?
Yeah, well, I think we have to go back in memory lane. I think most people don't understand that the prison system, this happened just a couple decades ago. You hear a lot of people talk about the 13th Amendment, and they say that you can still be locked up and so forth, but in reality, it really just started in the mid-'80s, right? As an example, when I started in 1980, there was only 30,000 federal prisoners. When I retired, there was 218,000. When in 1980, I think there was something like either 300 or 500,000 prisoners in the entire United States. Today's 2.3 million.
2.3 million.
So we, as a country, we make up 5% or less of the world population, but incarcerate 25%. We incarcerated more people than China, Russia, and all these countries that have much more people than we do.
We make up less than 5% of the country's population, but we account for the world's population. But we account for 25%
of those
the people that are incarcerated. That's a crazy number. That's a wild number. And to think you worked in a prison, so you've seen those numbers. So you've seen the numbers like firsthand.
Right. I seen the growth. Right. I grew up as how you grew up, in high school and then you go to college. So right before my eyes, I see
being so many inmates in prison, do you think it became harder to obtain like a certain standard for prisons that were understaffed and that just went through certain conditions that made it worse for the inmates over time?
But I think as a country we lost our way, right? And I want to say that it started under President Reagan. It started under President Reagan and continued under Bill Clinton. And then we just the Republicans and the Democrats were trying to see who can be more harsh on crime, and what we end up is creating a whole, before, when you commit drug offenses and those kinds, you never went to federal prison. You
Right.
go to state prison.
For
So
drug
they
offenses.
added over 2,000 new federal crimes
Just so
during
that
that period,
people
right?
to the feds.
And so what they end up doing, and they forced the states to add, before they got rid of parole in 1985 in the federal system because of Willie Horton. One guy was paroled and he went to rape, and they did away with parole. So now when you
Because
go
of what
federal,
one guy did.
because of one guy did. So what we have seen is that now we start to see it became a business. So they start building all these prisons, and they were building them as an economic development for remote and so you go
Economic development.
right. So you go to most of the federal prisons are built in Kentucky and all these places where there ain't even no black people, or the whole prison is black, and then
The whole prison black, but no black people in Kentucky.
Right.
Like, what's going on?
So if you go through and you go through that, I wrote in my book, I have a timeline in the book that I wrote about how this whole stuff, gives you a timeline as to where we at and how we got here, and then too there's a lot of factors that have driven. We remember about the crack cocaine.
Yes, sir.
Right, they
Yes, sir. Of course.
People was getting 30 times. People. A lot of the prison population was going out of the whole crack academic.
Yeah.
And then you compare the opiate to the crack, and now they're talking about treatment. Back when it was crack, you went to prison and you got a lot of time for it. So as a country, we have to sit back and evaluate what is fair and right.
Right.
And that if you break the law, right, you have to deal the consequence.
Right, of course.
But how much time is too much time?
Right,
Like John said,
exactly.
if I sell drugs and nobody was killed, is a life sentence serving us any good?
Exactly.
So I don't want to, when we have these conversations as a criminal justice professional too, I don't ever want to negate the fact that people, when they break the law, there shouldn't be some consequence for their actions. But we know that we went all overboard, and as such, we know that the sentencing, even for when you look for what brown people get and black people get versus what the Caucasian get for the same offenses, it was never equal.
It's not adding up.
Right. So we always seem to get, and it's the reality, and it's a fact. It's not that you're trying to create a division between white, brown, or black. It is what it is, and the facts never lie. So that's why we have the majority of our folks in prison now, either black or brown people.
Right. You said during your time throughout the prisons, you've seen the cocaine and the crack and all those things that come through the prisons and they try to treat them and things of that such. How has COVID affected the prison system and the way they've been operating? Because I've been seeing a lot on social media where a lot of inmates, of course we know inmates have phones and all that, so they've been going live from prisons and posting videos on social media saying that it's terrible in there. They're not doing anything to combat the COVID-19 or anything of that such. So,
well, I think we have to be, and most people, prisons is sort of it's not. People don't even understand or don't really care. It's kind of out of sight.
Right.
It's
a
closed society. The reality that, right, there's no way that you can minimize the spread of the pandemic in the prison unless you have to stop all movement. I was still working, I probably would have proposed where the staff come and maybe work 30 days on and 30 days off.
Okay.
Right. That way, you know that the only way it can come in where the prisoners get it is if the staff comes. They don't get to leave and go home.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really a difficult. I think what you have to do, like as a leader in any situation, you want to minimize, right? Because
you know you're not gonna eliminate. You're just trying to minimize.
You try to minimize and make sure that people don't die, or they get the appropriate treatment when they wanted to create a wing that those people that are tested positive, that they go only there, and then the people wear the appropriate PPEs when they interact and they don't come out. So that's a very, very difficult answer, that because really it's a tough, just based on the numbers, and because you can't do no social distancing in prison, right? So we're not going to try to say no, you can't do it, right? And we can't let them. Now there was a move in some instances to let those that are elderly that had on the line to go on home confinement.
Oh, really?
In the federal system. The state system didn't do that. I don't think the state of Florida. So there was inmates.
So the feds, explain a little bit about that. You mean, so they were going to let people go home?
And finish their time. Yeah.
And finish their time at home.
Right, on home confinement.
So did they actually release some inmates on
Yeah,
home confinement?
Yeah, they did. And you may have to come back if you didn't finish your time and they feel
right.
You still have time when the
COVID is underhanded, you coming back. Right, okay. Okay. That's cool. I mean, that's cool though. That's decent. That's definitely decent of them to do that for some people, because there was a lot of people that were basically trying to make their case to get out faster because of COVID.
And some of it was legitimate, and I think it's the right thing to do, because we know it was a dreaded disease, and if and the sad thing is that we don't know how it impacts individuals. It's really an individual.
It's case by case,
right? So you don't have one broad thing that you can say everybody's going to have to say.
You can't put everybody
right. So you have some people die 2 weeks later, they die. My mom is 85 and she had it, and thank God. She's fine. So I mean, there was a lot of unknowns, as a result of this pandemic. So I tell folks, don't be Monday morning quarterback, right?
What do you mean by that?
Because everybody think they know what they will do and how they can fix the problem until, I used to tell the folks that work for me, I say, if you want to be the warden, I'll let you be the warden.
Right.
And I sit back and you can see, because sometimes it's easy for us to minimize or think that it's just an easy fix, but it's complex issues, right? Because when you're trying to manage, not only you're dealing with the pandemic, you got all the other stuff that when you manage a prison. So I'm grateful that I wasn't in charge of no prison during
COVID, right?
During COVID, but I'm grateful for the
want to touch more on that and what the book consists of. Can we show the people? Can we show them the book? We got it right here for y'all, man. There we go. Can any good come out of prison, man? If you're looking for it, it's right here. It's in all stores. You can go find it. Tell them where they can find it.
No, one of the things I wanted to do is I wrote this book as a teaching tool. Actually, it's in the criminal justice program at FAMU.
Yes, sir. I knew that.
I wanted to be a teaching tool, and all the proceeds from the book goes to my nonprofit, so I don't take back one penny.
So all the proceeds you make from your books go to your nonprofit organization.
Yes, and the book was printed in a prison.
Oh, it was printed in a prison.
Yes,
So
I wanted to show
yes, sir.
Right, the value of that. Say, can any good thing come out of prison? And the answer is yes.
Yes, of course.
So I wrote the book, and it's only sold on my website, CIHolderMinistries.com.
CIHolderMinistries.com.
And because I don't, when you sell you stuff to Amazon, they take a pretty nice chunk
of
the book, right, to do that. So I didn't want to give away that. I wanted, and I'm not in, like, I get people say, why don't you go speak? You know, why? I said, the book, I didn't write the book to make money. I write the book to educate.
To educate, right.
So I'm not just going to go around the country trying to sell books, right?
Yep.
So I'm very meticulous. I'm very mindful of where I go and when I get requests. I can be traveling, all over this country speaking about, because I believe it's a powerful book.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on scripture. John 1:4-6, can any good thing come out of Nazareth? And that's Jesus.
Right.
So I believe that I've seen, and I believe that there's a lot of good people. Good people go to prison, so good people come out.
Exactly.
Right? They just make mistakes, right?
Right.
And some of us should be in prison. Right?
Exactly.
But by the grace of God.
Right. Exactly.
But we have done things, that should have lined it. So we don't want to judge, right? We don't want to judge.
Don't be so quick to judge, man.
Right.
Don't be so quick to judge people. People make mistakes every day. You could have been somebody that was in that prison cell. You never know.
Yes, sir.
But what's a little bit more you talk about in the book though? If people haven't came across it or something you want to highlight from the book that
there's two things I like to highlight in the book is that it's called the person first model.
Person first model?
Yeah, because I believe that everybody's a person first.
Of course.
Whether you're in prison, outside, and if we deal with them from that perspective, we see that we more alike than we are apart.
Of course, right.
So
celebrities and all.
Right.
Everybody,
right.
people.
So I focus on that we should treat people as such.
Yes.
Right, with respect and with dignity. Mm-hmm. Right, and giving them a chance for redemption and second chance.
Right.
And then the other big thing that I wanted to pay attention is to the last chapter, the accountability model. And I say that, prisons is like a black hole.
A black hole? What do you mean by that?
We spend about $80 billion a year, keeping folks locked up in prison.
Yeah.
And I always ask the question,
big business.
What do we want in return? When we send our kids to school, right?
Yeah.
We hold principals accountable for FCAT.
We know what we're trying to get out of that.
Right? So my thing is, why don't we hold?
What are we getting out of prison?
Why don't we hold those in charge of prisons to make sure we're getting the right return on investment? And yes, everybody's not gonna meet the criteria, but there should be some type of formula that people are held accountable for. When they come to prison, we have an obligation to make sure when they leave, they are better off than when they came before.
I thought prison was supposed to be a rehabilitation type of system. But it doesn't seem like.
But in reality, they say that, but they don't. Unless there's some measuring tool in accountability, because we can say it all the time, right? And we know that that's not the case, right? So we have to, because for me as a leader, I want to be accountable.
Of course.
Right? As long as you've given me the resources to do what I have to do, I don't mind being accountable.
Right, hold me accountable.
Right. So I want, we should be accountable. So I have an annual reunion with those that was in prison with me. I bring them into my city and
Annual reunion?
we have a picnic.
Okay.
We do some training and then we have a restaurant.
Training on what? What do you do training
We
on?
talk about job. We talk about
okay, so like
they come
life
in,
skills.
Yeah,
and
they
things
come
of
in
that
like Friday night. We have a nice welcome reception.
Okay.
We get up Saturday morning. We do workshop. At noon we go to the park at the waterfront and we do a barbecue.
Okay.
We stop that evening at 6 and we go do a church service.
All right.
And those that don't have the capacity to come, we're funded.
Nice.
Right. And we have, last year we didn't have it because of the pandemic. It's normally in April.
Okay.
So
that's about the time the pandemic kicked
right.
off,
Right.
Yeah,
So
March,
it kicked right.
Yeah.
It started in February and then got, it was really in its height. So this year again, it doesn't seem like we're gonna do it, but we're gonna do a virtual conference.
Okay.
But if people want to learn about my ministry, and it's strictly only service people that have been incarcerated or formerly incarcerated in Nigeria. We want to help and empower them.
Yes,
So
sir.
that's what I want to do. And if you go on my website, you can learn about all the things that we do.
Right.
And I think we're gonna do our virtual reunion this year. I think we're looking at April the 24th.
Okay, for the virtual reunion.
Yes,
sir. Okay. I heard you say I know you got a lot of things going on. Besides that, I know you're a part of a few committees. You want to talk about that a little bit? I know you got a few committees you're a part of.
Well, let's the one that probably means more to me now is the 400.
Yes, sir.
African American History Commission, right? Because it was convened by Congress to celebrate the arrivals of the first Africans in America, which was in Fort Mumford.
The first Africans in America.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
In the English, and I think sometimes we have to understand that there was Africans in America before. When they had the.
What you mean?
Yeah.
Before.
In St. Augustine,
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so there was slaves in Haiti.
Yeah.
And America don't teach you a lot. What they claim, right, 1619 is when the first African, right? So we were celebrating 400 years.
Yep.
But think about this. Columbus brought Africans to the New World in 1492. So there was Africans around in Haiti and all the Caribbean, Brazil, Cuba, all these places way before the even, but they don't tell you that.
Right, of course not.
So I was proud to be one of the first group of they were going to give awards to the 400 individuals for their impact in whatever in America. And I'm grateful that I was one of the first 40 awardees.
First 40 award winners.
And I'm also the vice chair of the advisory committee on faith and justice.
Okay.
So we're trying to figure out, because everything we do is going to be captured in the history, and it's going to be.
Of course, history has to be.
Right. So that commission was signed into law by President Trump, and it's to celebrate the 400 years of African American.
Okay, so Trump put that in. He
signed the law, right? It went through Congress.
Yeah, right.
Then the president always have to sign for it to become law. So he signed into law that doesn't mean that he was an advocate for the.
Right. That does not mean he was an advocate for it.
So
right, of course.
Just as the president, he have to sign every law.
He got to sign off for everything.
Right.
Of course. Yeah, makes sense.
So that is something I'm doing some great work with that. We had a 12-hour program in recognition of Martin Luther King birthday.
Okay,
so,
12-hour program.
Yeah, and we went for 12 hours from the day before to his birthday, saying instead of a day off, a day on.
Okay.
And so that
day
was
on.
Right. So
I like
we want people to. It's something
like
that we've been celebrating. It's called Justice Sunday, which is the Sunday before his birthday.
Okay.
So we had a great program, and we want to do another big program on Second Chance Monday.
is Second Chance Month?
Yes.
I never knew that.
Right. It's
That's the month of second chance.
Right.
April.
Right.
Okay.
So we wanna do a big program
Okay.
highlighting, what that means.
Oh yeah, that's dope. That's pretty cool right there. That's dope. Yeah. I didn't know April was Second Chance Month.
Yes, it is. By Prison Fellowship, right? They came up with it. I think this year is gonna be the 4th year.
Yes, sir. So it's clear to see that you got your hands in all different avenues and things of that such. What is a message you could give out there for young entrepreneurs and people that want to start up their own business and maybe going to business for themselves and they don't really know how to get started, or they're having a hard time keep going, like just finding that fire in them to keep pursuing what they're actually trying to do.
Yeah.
What would you say to
I
that?
think the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs does is that they try to develop a business model with something that they want to do.
Okay, something they want to do.
Or something
What you
that
mean
they
by
like,
that? What
like
you mean
something
by
that
that?
they like, right? So they say, okay, I like being a broadcaster, so I'm gonna start a business doing that.
Okay.
And I think that's not necessarily. You have to build a business plan.
Right.
And you have to make sure there's a need.
Need for that, right? Yeah, I got you.
Right,
It's
and
like
then,
supply and demand.
Right. So
There's
a lot
supply
of people open business and never went and do the market research to
right.
see whether they, and then they don't have enough capital to sustain to go through the. So I always used to tell folks, when they come to talk to me, let's go over your business plan. If you don't have it, don't come talk to me.
No, you can't come without a business plan.
Don't come tell me what you feel like and what you think is gonna work.
Right.
Because and I think a lot of people make mistakes like that, and as such, they end up failing, right? Because a lot of businesses fail, right?
Of course,
and
business
when,
fail every day.
yeah, and when the dust is settled for the pandemic, there's a lot of businesses that was in existence that's not gonna make it.
A lot of people was getting business loans too.
Yeah, well, and they're not gonna make it.
Right.
They're not gonna come back.
Loan and all, they're not gonna make it back.
It's hard.
It really is. When the pandemic is gone, a lot of the small businesses and black-owned businesses will be gone due to the pandemic.
Yeah, it is. And talking about, I'm a member of the National Small Business Association, so I'm on the leadership council for that group. So I try to be involved in things that I can make a difference.
Exactly.
Black people like to complain, but they don't. You have to be at the table when the decision. So you got to be involved in the decision.
Yes, sir.
See, we tend to not be at the table, and then we complain after the decision. So it's like you can't. You got to be there when the food is being cooked.
Right.
So you can have input because we don't want to take the time. So I try to be an active. Just like when my kids was in school. Every year I was on the advisory committee. Not that I wanted to be.
Have a say so.
I want to have a say so on what the school does.
Make perfect sense.
And I think as people, we got to start being more involved in those things that when decisions are made, we don't react to it. That we involve when the decisions are being made, so we can make a change. So I'm the immediate past national president of the National Association of Blacks in Criminal Justice.
Blacks in Criminal Justice.
So it's an organization that represents over 5,000 people all across the country and the Caribbean that works in the field. And in my position, I wanted us to be the voice for anything that's happening as it relates to criminal justice reform and those kinds of things, because I think we have a unique perspective that we know both the cultural things that impact through criminal justice reform, and I think we tend to not be at the table for that. And I just had a conversation with a group of folks, and I was telling them I want to see the historically HBCUs back colleges be more involved in policies and procedures that's being centered around criminal justice, because they have some of the biggest criminal justice programs in the country, but they never involve in what the policies and stuff that are coming.
They don't have no input.
Right. So I want to see them more active in
how you get involved in that? You were in Florida. You obviously got hands and things all
Well,
over
you
the
know,
country.
God has a way of connecting you to people, and you don't know where it's gonna go.
Right.
My mentor used to be the director of the prison services in the district and retired. And when I worked, he used to come and do programs for my inmates here.
Okay.
So when I retired, he said, hey, you know, there's this brother I want you to meet. He's doing some great things in New York.
Okay.
So I think 7 years
So
ago.
it's like word of mouth.
Yeah, so he connected us.
Put you on.
He connected us and we said, hey, you know what, we're going to, whatever opportunity there we go. So that was our first opportunity. 7 years ago we bid.
Okay. 7 years ago you bid on the halfway house?
Yeah.
And it's just now
And
coming through?
it's now coming through.
See, so it takes time for stuff like that.
Right, so it takes a little bit of time. That's why you got to have staying power.
Right, you got to be able to.
Yeah, you got to be able to go through the, you know,
right.
the folks have been fighting us.
They were fighting y'all when y'all were trying to get that halfway house. So people that were in higher places
Right,
in
the
DC.
politicians and
Right.
the developers. So we had one place, they took it away from us, so they had to take the contract.
They took the contract away from you guys?
Yeah, well, since we didn't have a place because the developer took the lease away from us after we got awarded the contract.
Okay, so they took the building away and they were
Right,
like, oh,
so-
you guys don't have a building.
So
you
now
gotta
we
take
had that.
Yeah.
So we went and we finally purchased our own building.
Right.
And then they started fighting that, and we just, you know, I mean, but I think the essence of the story is that when people leave prisons, they need a soft landing place.
Of course, right.
A place that they can come, and that's what halfway houses, or they call them re-entry centers. That's what that does. It provides for a soft landing place, so they leave from prison, and then we adjust back into society through the center and then to home.
Yes, sir. That definitely is an interesting aspect because a lot of people when they get the idea of a halfway house, they're like they tend to think that it's a bad thing. If there's a halfway house in your community, those are people that's coming home from incarceration that are trying to figure out what they're gonna do with their lives. So it's not like they're coming to terrorize the neighborhood.
And I always ask the question is this: you rather them come, and they're coming anyway.
They're coming home, right?
They're coming home. So you rather them leave prison and come straight home, or
with nowhere to go.
Right? They have so that way they don't have housing. They have time to find housing.
Right.
They have time to find jobs.
Exactly.
So, but we always have the NIMBY, not in my backyard, which is sad because like we tell the folks, it's not like they're not coming.
Right, they're coming home.
They're coming home. Right, 95% of everybody that goes to prison gets released.
95%?
95%.
I didn't know that number was so high.
Yes, it is.
I thought when you go to prison, man, I thought most people, well, now that you say that, it does kind of make sense because you're gonna do your time because everybody don't get that long haul. Right, everybody don't go there for the long haul. I feel like if you're not going for the long haul, you might as well keep them at county. Why send them to Kentucky or something like that for 3 years, 2-3 years?
Well, by their capacity, as you know, Florida, like the example, the state of Florida now has the third largest, prison population among states.
State of
right?
Florida?
Yeah,
In county or prisons?
Yes, the state alone.
Just
so
that's
because you
including.
can't count counties. It's hard to count counties because they only handle offenses of people that doing less than a year.
Right.
Which is most of them are misdemeanors, right?
Yeah, but then a lot of people are in county that haven't been sentenced yet, and they're just sitting there for a year.
Right. So once they get sentenced, then if they get more than a year, they have to go to state prison. They can't do their time in county.
Right.
So there's it's a very and each state is different. But the fact of the matter is that we wanna for me, I believe that whether re-entry for me begins the day they walk in that prison though, right? Because
they didn't get to prison.
so we start changing all the bad habits, and all the things, because I use the saying, you know what you know.
You know what you know?
Yeah, if you don't know it, I don't care what you tell me.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
So there's a lot of these folks, they that's all they know. They live around their uncle, the brother, their
That's
dad.
all they know.
That's all they know.
Yep.
So that's how they learn to survive.
Yep.
And I believe, and I say this without any hesitation, I tell America, we really have a jungle. Most of our urban areas are jungle.
Oh yeah.
Because we have high unemployment
Trenches.
rate, right? And most of the prisoners are coming back to the urban areas. But we
They
don't
going
have
back
jobs.
to the trenches when they get
Right,
out.
so we don't have jobs for them.
Right.
So then, you want to know why we have all the violence. And the strong survive, the weak die.
Only the strong survive out here.
Right,
For
so
sure.
I'm saying we got to create opportunities for these people. We got to create jobs. We got to, all these guys, family unifications, all these things we have to do. And it has to be in the communities that they're coming back to. We can't put it out in the suburbia. We can't put an Amazon filling center where they don't even have cars, right? So they're always out in the suburb, but there ain't no public transportation. So how you gonna get a job out?
How you gonna get a job out there, right? You don't have no transportation to work. Right, yeah, that some programs, it just don't make sense for certain people that come home from incarceration and things of that such. But I heard you say a little bit earlier about blacks in criminal justice. Is that becoming more of a thing? Is the numbers increasing with African Americans that are getting into the criminal justice field in 2021?
I think we have a problem, and I'm glad you brought that up because when I get the opportunity to speak on that, and I do have an opportunity to speak at several universities around the country, I think we're in a very peculiar place, given all the issues with the police brutality and stuff that we see in that now. Young black people don't see that as a career choice.
Right. I know everybody I talk to, all my friends and things of that such, they have no interest in joining the criminal justice field. And because honestly, when we think of the criminal justice field, we just think of the police. That's all we think of. And if you working with the police, then you just working with the police. That's all.
And again, what you know.
You know what you know, huh? Right. You know what you know, huh? You said that, right?
We have to now.
3 hours later.
Those of us that responsible for training and motivating people. Like I went and I speak to the criminal justice classes, the class in FAMU, and there was a lot of people in there.
It's always a good turnout.
So right, they give a lot of people stuff, but then when I asked them, none of them want to work in criminal. So why you taking criminal justice?
Why y'all taking criminal justice class if y'all don't know?
So we really have to find a way, because I think it is very important. If we don't want to go back to the days when all the prisoners were black and all the staff were white.
Right.
I think by having diversity in your staffing, it brings cultural awareness and those kinds of things. So I think we have to find a way, and every chance that I get to speak about it is to encourage young people that it's like a service, it's like a duty. Just like they ask you to go to the military, we need people to consider, whether it's in police corrections or whatever, law enforcement or whatever, we need faces, we need people to see folks that look like themselves when they get encountered, because we bring some sensitivity that normally other folks don't bring.
You always feel a little bit more comfortable when you see somebody that's kind of from your background or something like that in an unfamiliar place.
Yes, sir.
So that's definitely a good thing. That's something that's not really talked about a lot, because like you said, I don't really it's looked at as from a different angle for sure.
And I agree. I think when you look at how what is triggering the whole movement last summer, right, and the Black Lives was based on stuff that wasn't fair and wasn't right.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You don't want to perceive as you by signing up that you're
siding with that.
Right.
That's kind of how we make it seem. Like if I see somebody that's one of my friends, they joined the police academy today, I'm be like, what you doing? What's going on? I didn't know you had that. Like, I didn't know that's what you was thinking. And like, do you see what's going on? Like, so you're gonna try to assume that they're fine with what's going on, but maybe they could be trying to join the force to be the change.
Yeah, and that's what we gotta be the change we want to see.
Exactly, you gotta be the change you want to see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, we can sit back and complain, but if we're not doing anything, then don't complain.
you said, you want to be at the table. You want to be there when the food is being cooked, so you don't just be there to complain when it's time to eat.
Because they say if you're not, then you're on the menu, right?
Yes, sir. Right. I had something wrote down in my notes. I know you're big on legacy. I know you're real big on leaving a legacy and things of that such. So elaborate a little bit more about that.
But what I've come to realization is that God has been good to me.
Mm-hmm.
I was a homeless child in Trinidad. At the age of 12, I always tell, when I talk to young people in particular, I tell folks, people see you where you at. They don't know where you've been. I know that what I tell folks is that there's some things you have to do in order to win.
You got to do things that you're uncomfortable with to win.
You may have to start sweeping the floor. It doesn't mean you have to sweep the floor forever.
Forever, right.
But it may be a start, but don't say I'm not going to do this and then don't do nothing.
Right. You just be sitting
So what I've said, I want my life, my legacy is to be a beacon of hope and inspiration for young people that you can accomplish anything you want in life if you put your mind there and you put in the work, what I call the grind.
The grind, yes sir.
And
get familiar, fall in love with the grind.
And just work and just keep your eyes on the prize.
Yes sir.
I'm not interested on positions and titles and those guys. Everybody, I can do that. I tell folks, my resume was done when I retired 13 years ago.
Right, yeah, your resume.
But I wasn't looking for no job. I ain't trying to work.
You're not trying to work for nobody.
So I want to be that hope and that inspiration for people. Like I started a program called Dream Builders.
Yes sir, Dream Builders. What is that about?
So that's a group of young African and Hispanic men I've taken under my wings, and I want to help them to fulfill their dreams by working in the network with each other to help you. So you may have one particular dream, this other person, but we may decide that we want to bring our resources to help you. The network that we know.
Right.
So we meet on Sunday, so it's a small group, and so I'm always encouraged by that, because that's what we call building legacy, right?
Of course, right.
A lot of us, those of us that were successful, we go in and we just sit back and we go in our little world and we never share it.
Right, you don't share the information you learn throughout the process. You just want everybody else to come along how they come along. And that's not right. You gotta show people what you learn. Exactly.
Right? So I get mine, you get yours.
Yep.
I want to be able to, if God allows me to touch as many lives, and to give hope and inspiration as to many people as I can. That makes me happy, because He's given me if God takes me away from this earth tomorrow, I feel like I've lived a full life.
Yes, sir. And that's how you want to be. That's how you want to feel. Right. I don't feel that way, of course not.
No, but you're on the front end.
Exactly, of course.
But there's no guarantee, so you still have to live your
There's no
life.
guarantee, exactly. You know it's no guarantee, man. You know that. But of course, though. But yeah, that's Dream Builders, right?
Mm.
So that's the young entrepreneurs.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, sir. And how many people is a part of that group?
Right now, there's 1, 2, 3, but there was about 7 of us.
Okay. And they talk about, so they all have businesses basically in different areas.
Right.
And you guys bring it together.
We try to use our network and relationships to help each other, grow or come up with a new, like we just had 2 join this past Sunday. They have good jobs, but they want to diversify their portfolio. So they want to know if there's opportunities for them to invest
Elsewhere.
Elsewhere.
Okay.
They can have a bigger pot.
Okay, yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right, man, we talked about a lot of good things today, obviously. Trying to keep you guys engaged. We had a great time today. You got any closing remarks you want to talk about with the people that you just feel like you gotta make sure you get out there before we get out of here?
Yeah, first let me just, congratulate you on the work that you're doing.
Yes, sir.
To be a means of education and information to our people, right?
Yes, sir.
Particularly our young people, so I want to big you up for that.
Yes, sir, I appreciate
it. And then, we shared a lot of things today certain amount of time to capture. But one closing remarks I wanted to share because I've been troubled by it because is the fact that black folks is a little bit scared or they feel like taking the vaccine.
The vaccine. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
So I
COVID-19
the
vaccine.
COVID-19 vaccine, and I'm concerned that the information we getting is making us maybe less acceptable that we want to take the vaccine, and we have, we can negate history, right? Because we have to talk. People are still concerned about the Tuskegee.
Right, exactly. I've been seeing a lot of that.
All of the kind of thing, but I want to tell my people because I believe that education is the key. Information is the key. And
Yes,
once
sir.
you have the information, then you can make an informed decision.
Yes, sir.
So I believe recognizing that we do have reasons to have doubt. I think it's important that we understand the risks involved in that,
Right.
in the risk and the benefit.
Exactly.
Right? So
Yeah,
you
risk
have to
versus reward.
Right,
Yes,
risk
sir.
versus reward, right?
Yes, sir.
So I'm worried about my people because of the misinformation that we've been the last ones to get the vaccine, and as a result, will continue to see our communities being impacted and being hurt from it.
Right.
So I want to tell everybody, and I say this with all sincerity, because I took the vaccine.
Okay, so you already have the
So
vaccine.
and I tell folks, I wouldn't ask anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do.
Yes, sir.
I think it's important for us as a people because we are already lacking in healthcare and all the things that we don't want our communities which been ravaged by drugs and all. We don't want the pandemic after everybody's well. We still fighting it because we decided we wasn't going to take the vaccine.
Right.
And I said, we don't have to look to America. We can look at the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom had the vaccine a month sooner.
A month?
A month sooner than America. We can go to Canada.
That's crazy. I didn't even know that.
So there's enough data out there, right,
Mm-hmm.
to figure out, and vaccines impact everybody differently.
Of course.
The last time I checked, there was only one person died.
One person died from the vaccine.
Right.
I seen a nurse die from the vaccine.
I think that was you have to be careful.
It's a
what
lot of
you
stuff
see
you
on
see,
social media, right?
Of course.
That for my factor was a doctor, and it may have had, but but think about it. How many vaccines been given?
Right.
Your chances of getting hit by a car and dying is greater than what the
Yeah,
number.
exactly.
So again, you have to talk about risk and reward.
Yes, sir.
So I want to tell my people, right, and I want you to tell your people, particularly the young people,
Yes, sir.
that don't, do your own fact checking.
Of course.
But I think you should take the vaccine. I think
Okay.
it's going to help and it's going to give you life. You don't want to be at the end and then you get it free. I believe in America, in the world, it's going to become a point that you won't even be able to get on the plane unless you can prove that.
Yeah, I think so too.
So we always have, we got to think, we got to be
Ahead of time,
strategic
right.
thinking, right?
Mhm.
So I'm saying, do your homework, but don't let misinformation be the reason why you don't take it because, everybody think it was developed too fast. They've been developing a vaccine. This is the second.
This is the second go around.
Yes. They've been working. So it didn't just pop up on everybody think they pop up and we can't make a vaccine. So they've been working on this technology.
Yep.
So I want people, I know that's one of the things, oh no,
it's big right now.
right. So I hear people
Big.
saying it's connected to the 5G and all kinds of
Yep.
stuff, and if you take it, I've known a lot of people that have taken it and I haven't had one negative, other than the side effects and it impacts everybody differently.
do your own research, man, and decide what's best for you and your family. If you looking after people and they depend on your word or say so, just do your own research, man. Don't depend on social media and everybody else to tell you how you should feel about the vaccine. If you do your research and you feel like the vaccine is for you, then let's do it. Go ahead and do it and do it. But if you do your research and you don't feel like it's for you, then to each his own. Everybody got their own opinion, right?
But make sure it's based on fact.
Right, based on facts,
Yeah,
right?
you don't want, because you can come, because sometimes we don't want to change.
Right, of course, right. A lot of people like change.
Yeah, they don't like
Yes,
change,
sir. A lot
right?
of people like change.
But I think we have to be intelligent and just remember the risk and the rewards.
Right.
That's all.
This might be our new world, man. This is the world we live in now. COVID is a thing. COVID is a part of our world now. So we just gotta adjust.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So any more closing remarks?
I'm grateful for the opportunity. I want to wish you continued success.
Yes, sir.
With
I
what
appreciate
you're doing,
that.
and I think that I'm so proud of the work you're doing and the fact that you will even consider to even let me be part of this great work.
Right.
Definitely.
I want to thank you for coming up here and being another guest on my show, man. It means a lot to me to have you up here. Of course, you know that, and just to have your cosign and your word on my show, it means a lot to me. So everybody, I want to thank y'all for watching. I want to thank y'all for tuning in. I love y'all. Y'all know that. Stay tuned for another episode of Wake Your Ass Up with Ev. Before we get out of here, make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button down below. And make sure y'all comment who y'all want to see next up on the show, man. This was a good one. Leave some comments down below and let me know what you think. Y'all have a good one. Y'all have a good